Welcome to your first nuclear metagame shift of 2023. Alright, to the 30% of you that have not smashed the elven crap out of that subscribe button, smash it so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Welcome to your Photon Hypernova metagame shift, where we're expecting Kashtiras to be the forward driving force of this metagame. Now, what that means is you're going to have a walking, talking, scary, macrocosmo, walking-esque monster that his entire life purpose out here is to basically lock zones and to macrocosmo your opponent into the ground. Well, the biggest things about countering this deck, so first of all, when one of the projected best decks of your format is a deck that is, you know, a macrocosmo, that's going to show off some graveyard reliant things. But that doesn't mean that that's a horrible thing, because the thing that makes this deck so vulnerable is, well, some very good counters like Lava Golem, the ability to kaiju over the card that locks zones, Book of Eclipse. It's not like, because this deck doesn't open up negates minus the adventure package if it opts to play it, it is actually a semi-fair matchup, and that's something that you don't really hear mention all that much. Now, obviously, if you trigger a monster effect, then they'll be able to clean things up. They're a little bit different than negates in the aspect of they're going to trigger on the resolution of your effects to deal devastating effects. So if you can have generic cards to clean those particulars up, then you're not going to have an issue. It's why I don't mind having this deck be the metagame definer of this format, because it's not unfair. And that's really saying something out here, because 95% of the time when you look at these sorts of formats, you know, things end up being massively crazy. Well, not this time, and I think that's a good thing here, that you can see some level of diversity in nice style back. Next up, I got to talk about Triple Tactics Thrusting, because this card is very, very strong, and I think it's probably one of the best cards kind of available out there. If your opponent has activated a monster effect during this turn, you can set a normal spell or trap card directly from your deck. That's why Scythe got banned, by the way. Or if your opponent controls a monster, you can add it to your hand instead. Now, there's a lot to kind of unfold with this. First of all, this card is as good as whatever effects that you can trigger to be able to pull this off. Now, what I mean by that is, you know, do you have a method to trigger a monster effect that your opponent has? Whether it be, you know, hand traps or things like that, to kind of warrant seeing a particular place for this. So that's one very big thing that we just got to straight talk about out of the gate is, you know, how will there be monster effects to trigger this? And B, is the card worth playing? I think in small capacities that this is not a horrible thing to play. And I do mean this in, like, the best way possible. The card is stupid good. But, like, with the reductions and things that are happening right now, you know, obviously being able to set a Scythe or a Sanctum to Scythe your opponent on the next turn, they had to clean that up. But the ability to search for an evenly matched with this, off of triggering just simply one of the most devastating effects that your opponent could have, is actually kind of free real estate for this card. So that's one big thing that I like about Thrusting, is, well, obviously you can also go search for the base form talents, which then, you know, you can get your Pot of Greed, you can get your Hand Rip, whatever of the many of the unfun effects that you want to punish your opponent with, you have access to through this card. So it's an additional layer of good stuff, and I am very curious to see if we will see something really shine with this. Next up is Labyrinth's projection in the format. Now, so many people are jumping on the Labyrinth train right now. It has been so long since I've honestly seen a deck like this, people this happy to see a back row deck. And that really says something just about the format right now. If players are genuinely this excited for the chance to play back row decks, that is amazing. That tells me that the way that this format is right now, that players are, they're excited. All right. Obviously, you know, weight measuring is not going to get as much value as it once had up to this point. That's for sure. All right. Weight measuring was one of the cards I think a lot of people were very hyped for. But to be honest with you, you know, you have so many other trap cards that you can get value out of this format. You are good to go. All right, so if you're looking at Labyrinth right now and you're like, I don't know, I mean, prices have gone up. All right, if you've been neglecting looking at the market, it is not good out here. Labyrinth players, if you picked up your stuff early, much like a lot of the things that happen in this game, if you picked up early, you won. And that's a lot of the trend as of late, is just you get on the train as early as possible and you sail the line of Easyville. Outside of that, I mean, I'm expecting this deck to actually make a little bit of a splash on the game until probably Heavy Back Row returns back to the game. I think if we see Heavy Back Row return in the form of like good side deck options, that we will see players kind of struggle out here for a chance to, I would say, keep up with the game. So that's definitely something too. Like Labyrinth, if you activate a Lightning Storm and they don't have like a response or something, it is free Blowoutville. Now there's also the topic of where are we sitting right now with tier. A lot of there are people that are clinging on to this deck for dear life, and I respect that. I understand that, you know, you don't want to lose the wife who, you know, she's been with you for a very long time. There's not a real reason to, you know, turn in the badge yet, and I get that, and that's fine. You can stick around and continue to play the waifu, and then there will always be dedicated players to the craft of their deck. I'm not going to knock that because I understand it. I played Gadgets for years. But right now, I think either you've got a couple possible variants. The pure variant is cratered off the face of the planet, all right? Like you're not going to have to engine this thing. You're either going to try to play this with Fallen of Albaz and try to do Brandon and High Spirit shenanigans, which we've seen that work in the past, or you're going to try to play this with the Kashtira Tier Elements deck to, you know, maximize on the value that you're getting off of Fenrir, Unicorn, all of those good value cards. I think those are the only real two ways to do it. We don't have like a crazy hodgepodge, you know, real crazy monster pile that you can try to shove all of this in to make things like work out. That's not something that exists in the TCG. We don't have Grass Looks Greener. You know, the reduction of these cards definitely helped things out along the way. But that's why I said, like, the Fallen of Albaz variant might work. Maybe there will be a build that will show up that'll be like Kashtira Tier Elements Fallen of Albaz. Maybe you can find a way to combine all of these engines together. It's not unheard of because the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Has managed to do things like that, and that's actually kind of cool at the end of the day, I will say. When you can, you know, soup up all of these engines together and make things actually work out, it's not the strangest thing that I've ever seen. So, it's honestly why I love this game. So, I guess the last real point here I want to mention here is we're in a format where Rogue looks very inviting right now. Rogue has not been in a very good position since Tier Elements got the chance to kind of come out here. But when you see what else is kind of looming in the format here, when you're looking at the general shifts right now in the metagame, and you're seeing that, well, you know, the biggest, scariest deck in the room can be outed by a Book of Eclipse, and then all you need to do is, you know, clean up a few Stranglers on the field. As long as your deck, I guess, could do Book of Eclipse Raigeki, you're pretty much good to go. Do not underestimate Raigeki either. Some of these board breakers are going to be really good. As long as your opponent doesn't open up like a full zone lock and you have, you know, one of many, many cards right now in order to out this. This is why I like this game, because right now where we're sitting with this deck is we have so many cards in the pool right now that it's not impossible. You pick your flavor of thing that you want to dedicate in order to do this. So kudos to Rogue players right now. As long as you can find a way around, you know, the shenanigans that are starting to unfold, you can play the game. And that's a lot better than it's been for the last 4 to 6 months. Shout out to Sword Soul players. You guys still have a chance out here. That's it really says something to it in itself with the state of the game. Is very, very interesting. So what do you guys think about our first big metagame shift of 2023? And man, about time. Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you. Ugh.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.